Hello friends, my name is Nayaswami Hriman and I'm here in the Blue Lotus Temple in Bothell, Washington, just north of Seattle. My topic today for Spiritual Renewal Week 2020 is deepening your meditation. Now, normally when you think about giving a class like this, and I've had the blessing to do many such classes of this type, you think about, chanting. How can we improve our chanting? How can we make our Hong Sa practice deeper, our Kriya practice deeper, energization? And there are many ways to do that. But I think today I want to approach it a little bit differently, perhaps just for my sake, if not yours. And so I want to start with a quotation that Swami Kriyananda often offered to us. It comes from the Adi Shankaracharya. Adi means first, from the very first Shankaracharya in the long line of Swamis, dating back about 1,000+ years. He said, ritual and ignorance are not mutually exclusive. And translating that into deepening your meditation, what that comes across as being is simply this: meditation by itself will not give us liberation. There's got to be more to it than technique. You know, in the autobiography of a yogi, Badhuri Mahashai once said to the young aspiring monk Mukunda, he said, "You often go into the silence, but have you developed anubhava, love for God? Remember, the technique is not the goal." And so we want to talk about, in deepening the meditation, we want to go really beyond techniques. Our Western mindset, our scientific mindset, has a fascination for it and an inclination to imagine that the tool of technique, all we have to do is huff and puff, and we'll find God. It goes much deeper than that, and it's not just devotion, which is often posited as the solution to that. First things first, what I have noticed in decades of meditation, teaching meditation, meditating with other friends, day in and day out, is that sometimes we make the mistake that Patanjali mentioned, which is we miss the point. And what is the point? To transcend our techniques, to transcend the five senses, to transcend the monkey mind, to transcend our emotional self-involvement, to transcend our physical restlessness, our writs and duties, and to achieve moksha, to achieve superconsciousness. We have been told, also by Adi Shankaracharya, though I doubt he made it up, that God is described as Sat Chidanandam. And Sat Chidanandam then is the focal point for what I'd like to share here today. Sat means God, truth, but in the context of describing God, it means existence. God is immortal, ever-existing, eternal. Chit is self-awareness. God is not just in existence, but aware of that existence. And as God is, therefore, so is the creation to varying degrees, and so is it true for us. We are, as a soul, immortal, and we are self-aware. Anandam means we have the capacity for feeling. We have a response, our self-awareness, we know we exist. We can't prove it, but we know it. But then we have a feeling for that existence. And in effect, then, you can correlate Satchidanandam, our eternal soul nature, to the three portals, to our triune nature by which we both reach out into the world, but also withdraw through the world. And those have been described in different ways, but one way that you're probably familiar with as a follower of the path of self-realization are the three aspects of the yogas: Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. And so we think of Patanjali's great, or I think of Patanjali's great definition of the state of Satchidanandam, which is yogas, chitta, vritti, nirod. We think of the monkey mind. When we want to deepen our meditation, one of the great obstacles to our deepening is that monkey mind. And so I want to start then with Jnana Yoga. I want to start with that Satchitanandam, that self-awareness. In the industry of meditation, of course, this is huge. This is called mindfulness. Now, on the one hand, on the other hand, in the practice of meditation, it is also huge because it's this big monkey. It's the thing that we probably grapple with more than anything else. When we go to meditate, it depends on how we've lived the day. If our day is restless, our monkey mind is jumping all over the place, and then we come home and we try to meditate, we hardly have a chance. And so what I'm going to talk about is actually not necessarily in meditation, or not exclusively in the act of meditation. We think of ourselves as having a restless mind, and hopefully we aren't diagnosed with that, ADHD, but nonetheless, it is an issue for us in our society. On the other hand, as Yogananda put it, in a theater watching the movies, we are all yogis. You see, there are times and things we do during the day in which the mind becomes very still. The key to that is just our focus. And so when we're maybe reading a book, or we're watching a movie, or any number of things where we have to focus our mind, even just for a moment, the mind becomes still. You know, somebody once said, I don't know who said it, but it rings true to me. He said, teach a child the name of a flower or an animal, and that child may never see that flower or animal again. Names, words, thoughts are but symbols for the realities that they point to. And they therefore become a barrier to that transparent experience of simply being present. I like to joke that in yoga you have to be present to win, unlike those lottery games or contests that we have in our society. And so practice, therefore, looking. Practice, therefore, being a seer. A seer is one who goes beyond looking. You can do this at a stoplight. You can practice look. You know, the brain is wired in such a way. I haven't heard this written, but I know it's true for a fact, which is if you look up and maybe slightly to the side, notice your thoughts stop, which is partly why we look up in meditation, because that also is part of the response. Because when we look up, especially when we look to the side, because that's what we do when we're waiting for an answer, trying to remember that person's name, we stop. And so you can actually practice bringing the mind to a point of quietude by simply looking. What's it like, for example, when you stare out the window? You just stare out the window. The mind comes to rest. Any number of these practices can begin to familiarize your conscious mind with how to have the control to stop, look, and listen, for those of us who grew up with rural railroad crossings long ago. Okay, another technique related to the first is to develop the art of listening. When someone's speaking to you, listen. You know, what typically happens in a conversation, that person's talking and your mind's racing ahead to figure out what your response is going to be. You're reacting the whole time to all those symbolic words. But if instead you practice, as you do in the movies, as I've already said, if you practice listening, not reacting, but listening, then you're practicing for your evening meditation. Another technique Yogananda, and well, anybody who pays attention to these things would say, is that when you are doing things, pay close attention to what you're doing. If you're washing the dishes, Ever look at, how many times have I put something in the dish rack and then later see, oh my God, I missed half of it. So pick up that fork and examine it. In other words, live life in the moment, more present, more consciously. And you could say more slowly, but I'm less concerned about that, because as our mind expands towards infinity, what's slow, what's fast? You can't really say. In fact, Yogananda was once asked, where does the journey of self-realization end? He said it ends in endlessness. I mean, what else would infinity be except endless? And so it'll take us here in just a moment to the aspect of Satchidanandam, which is Sat, life, existence, vitality, and energy. But we'll come back to that in just a moment, because when we move into meditation, and if during the day we practice the art of paying attention, of listening, of seeing, then when we sit to meditate, then when we energize, we can pay attention. When we follow the breath up and down, we can pay attention. When we move the Kriya currents up and down, we can pay attention. If, they say that you die as you lived. And so it is. As you live, so you meditate. And you cannot really meditate deeply unless your life is a meditation. And so we come to Satchidanandam, to Anandam, which is bhakti, which is feeling. And in that, I think of the visualization Swami Kriyananda gave long ago. He said, be a spiritual archaeologist. Enter the door of the heart and go down through layers and layers of self-involvement and memories and fears and anxieties and desires. Keep going down and down until you hit the mother lode of the golden peace, until you reach, you might say, the rock bottom of feeling that is unconditioned. When Patanjali said yogas chitta vritti nirod, he was essentially saying that whether it be through what we perceive, whether it be through what we feel or what we do, essentially what we do is we strip away the I principle. And what is left is Satchidanandam. So in each of these aspects, in perception, we're stripping away the restless mind that keeps labeling everything. And in bhakti, we strip away our desires, our fears, our self-involvement in such a way that we reach that mother lode of inner peace, of unconditional feeling, unconditional love. The words are, again, just words. A technique that Swami Kriyananda talked about, which has endless uses, and I'll just move through it quickly here, is that of what I call sort of like being a distiller. You see a beautiful sunset. Beautiful sunset. Oh, what a wonderful day. Fine, that sunset's going to be gone in a few minutes. Or a beautiful flower. If you distill from the object that brings to you pleasure, whatever, and you distill the feeling of joy, the feeling of beauty, whatever it might be, you strip away the object and you distill the feeling and hold it in your heart until it becomes deeply calm, and then simply lift it. Imagine you had petals of flowers in your hands and you were lifting it at the feet of infinity. This can be done with your hurts and your fears and your angers and so forth. You distill it from the object or the circumstance out of which it has arisen, the thing somebody said, let's say, and you hold it in the heart until it becomes very calm and it becomes crystallized in a pure form. And then you simply offer it up. It's a beautiful thing to do. And as you review the day in your evening meditation, you can distill those different feelings of the day, when people say things to you and so forth, and then just allow it to leave you. And finally, in the last few minutes here, talking about the first part of Satchidanandam, Sat, existence. Yogananda said, we end in endlessness. Existence is infinity. Existence is life. Existence is vitality. Life is vitality. In the great mantra song that Swami Kriyananda wrote, Life Mantra, part of the words are God is life. All life is divine. What is this life flowing through my veins? And you know, when I think of Kriya Yoga and the path of self-realization, as Yoganandaji and the others brought it to us, in many ways we're karma yogis, because we're working with energy, the hallmark characteristic of the consciousness of our age. And so, you know, whether you describe it as Kundalini rising, you have to be careful of the words, because the words have no meaning beyond their reality. And let's focus on the reality. And so it is that if during the day, true karma yoga is the feeling that is the dissolution, once again, stripping away the I principle, is the flow of energy and movement and intention and action that is not based on I. It is God is the doer. And we attune ourselves by intention and prayer and devotion and perception, certainly. But karma yoga applied to meditation includes feeling the breath flow, feeling the astral breath flow, feeling space. And you know, space, as in stillness, is anything but dead, anything but empty. It's entirely full. And when you feel stillness, when you feel even space in the body, you feel potential, you feel vibrancy, you feel life. And so in meditation, one of the things we can do, whether during the technique or in the silence that follows our techniques, we can feel that space. We can feel that divine presence, that vibrancy. We can internalize it. The different things you can do, but to feel it is my point. Some people feel it deep in the spine, especially with Kriya Yoga, but that's not so important as it is to commune with the divine presence of life as Sat, life as vitality, life as divine. And so, friends, Sat Chidanandam describes the eternal oneness of spirit and describes the reality of all life. Sat Chidanandam. Thank you.